The day started like a normal day in Musutafu. That was the first mistake. A line of people waited at a crosswalk. A little kid pointed up at a hero billboard and tried to copy the pose. A delivery scooter hummed past. Far above, a news drone drifted in a lazy circle, filming the city like it owned the sky. Then the air changed. It did not get windy. It did not get loud. It got heavy. Like someone put a thick blanket over the street. A thin crack appeared in the empty space over the road. It was too straight to be smoke and too dark to be shadow. It widened fast. The crack became a tall, oval hole, black on the inside, with a faint purple edge that looked like hot metal. People froze. A woman dropped her phone. It hit the sidewalk and kept recording. A man shouted, "Villain!" and stumbled backward into a parked car. The hole pulsed once. Something stepped out. He landed softly on the street, as if gravity was a suggestion he did not need to follow. He was young, but his eyes were older than most grown-ups. He wore dark clothing that looked like armor in parts, but not like any hero costume. No bright colors, no logo, no smile for cameras. He looked around once, calm, like he had entered a room he had never seen, but already understood. Sung Jin Woo did not know this city, but he knew this feeling. A gate. His hand moved to the air without thinking. A habit. A hunter's check. He expected mana to be thick and buzzing near the opening. There was almost nothing. His brows tightened just a little. That's wrong, he thought. Below him, people started to run. A siren began somewhere far away, then another closer, then a dozen all at once. A hero patrol car slid around a corner. The driver's eyes widened at the sight of the hole in the sky. Two small-time villains saw a chance. They were not big names. They were the kind who stole purses and broke windows when the pros were busy. One wore a cheap mask and had a quirk that made his arms stretch like rubber. The other could spit a sticky glue that dried fast. "Yo!" the rubber-armed one yelled, pointing at the crowd. "Free stuff!" The glue villain grinned. "And free panic." They rushed the nearest group of civilians. Jin Woo's eyes tracked them. He did not move fast yet. He measured. They were not monsters, but they were hurting people. That was enough. His shadow stretched at his feet like it was waking up. The light on the street did not change, but the dark under him deepened. A cold ripple ran across the pavement. The villain slowed, confused. Jin Woo raised one hand, palm down. "Arise," he said. Quiet. The shadow under a street lamp peeled upward. A soldier rose out of the ground like it had always been there, waiting. Black armor, a dark helm. No face anyone could see, only faint blue lights in the eye slits. The civilian screamed louder. The rubber-armed villain stopped mid-step. "What the—" The shadow soldier moved. It did not rush like a wild thing. It moved like a trained guard. One clean step, then another. It swept the villain's legs with the flat of its blade and pinned him to the road with a knee. The glue villain fired a stream of sticky goop at the soldier's chest. The glue hit. It did not matter. More shadow shapes rose. 2, then 4, then 6. They formed a half-circle between the civilians and the villains. A wall made of darkness and discipline. One shadow soldier tilted its head, like it was listening. Then it did something strange. It saluted. Not to the villains, not to the civilians, to Jin Woo. Jin Woo did not react. He simply walked forward, hands at his sides, eyes steady. He reached the pinned villain and picked up the dropped wallet from the ground. He handed it back to the shaking woman who owned it. She stared at his face, then at the shadows. Are you a hero?" Jin Woo looked at her, then at the city, then up at the gate. "I'm not here for you," he said honestly, "but I won't let you get hurt." A scarf-like cloth snapped through the air. It wrapped around a streetlight and pulled a man down from a rooftop in one smooth motion. Shota Aizawa landed in a crouch, hair lifting slightly as his eyes locked on Jin Woo. He took in everything in a fast scan. The gate, the shadows, the villains pinned, the civilians, the newcomer's calm stance. This was not a quirk, he recognized. His eyes narrowed. Aizawa's gaze hardened, and his quirk activated. He stared straight at Jin Woo. Nothing changed. Jin Woo did not stumble. The shadows did not fade. Aizawa felt a cold pinch in his stomach. That should have done something. He took one step forward. "You," he said, voice flat and sharp. "Don't move." Jin Woo turned his head slightly. Not a full turn, not a challenge, just enough to show he heard. "You can tell me," Jin Woo said, "but you can't make me." Aizawa's hand went to his capture weapon. Before either could move again, heat poured down the street like an open oven. Flames split the air. Endeavor arrived in a burst of fire, landing with a heavy step. Eyes blazing as he looked at the gate, and then at the shadow soldiers. His jaw tightened. "What is this?" he growled. "Some kind of undead quirk?" Civilians cried out his name like a prayer. Cameras turned. Phones rose. Endeavor looked at Jin Woo. "State your name and hero registration." Jin Woo stared at the flames, then at the hero's face. He felt no fear. He had faced kings of monsters, but he felt something else. This world had rules, and it had people who enforced them. "I don't have one," Jin Woo said. Endeavor's flames flared. "Then you're a threat." Aizawa lifted a hand slightly, not stopping Endeavor, but warning him. He stopped the villains, but my quirk didn't affect him. Endeavor's eyes sharpened. "Not a quirk?" Jin Woo looked past them to the gate. The hole flickered like it was struggling to stay open. He felt its trail like a faint scent on the air. Then he asked a question that did not fit this city at all. "Who closes these?" he said, nodding at the gate. "When they open." Aizawa did not answer. Endeavor did not answer, because neither of them had a good answer for a hole in the sky that did not belong to their world. And behind Jin Woo, the shadows stood in a perfect line, like soldiers waiting for orders, as the gate above them pulsed again. They brought him in without handcuffs. They tried to act like it was normal. Aizawa walked at Jin Woo's side, capture weapon ready, eyes never leaving him. Endeavor stayed ahead, a burning warning sign. Hawks drifted in and out of sight like a lazy bird, but his attention was sharp. Jin Woo did not resist. He was not here to fight heroes. He was here to understand why a gate had opened in a world that felt empty of mana. The first place they took him was not a prison. It was worse. It was a clean room, white walls, bright lights, cameras in the corners, a long table with devices that looked like medical tools and hero support tech mixed together. A man in a suit introduced himself too fast and too smoothly. "I'm from the Hero Public Safety Commission. Thank you for cooperating." Jin Woo's eyes slid over him. "You're scared." The man's smile twitched, then steadied. "We're careful." Aizawa leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You can start by telling us what you are." Jin Woo stayed standing. He did not sit unless he chose to sit. He kept his hands visible, not as a peace sign, as a choice. "My name is Jin," he said. Hawks raised a brow. "Just Jin? Like a stage name?" Jin Woo did not answer the joke. Nezu entered next. The principal of UA walked in with small steps and calm eyes, like this was just another meeting. But his gaze took in details with a speed that felt almost like a scanner. "Welcome," Nezu said politely. "I'm Nezu. I run UA High." Jin Woo looked at the small animal in the suit, and he did not show surprise. He had seen stranger things in dungeons. "You're in charge," Jin Woo said. Nezu smiled. "One of the people who are in charge. This city has many." All Might arrived last, not in his giant form, in his thinner, tired body, dressed like a teacher. But his presence still filled the room. He looked at Jin Woo, then at the pinned footage on a monitor of civilians being protected by shadows. All Might's face softened. "You saved people." Jin Woo's eyes met his. He felt something from this man, not power like his, something else, a kind of weight. "I didn't want them to die," Jin Woo said. All Might nodded once, as if that was the most important answer in the world. The commission tried their tests. They offered a blood draw. Jin Woo stared at the needle, then nodded. He had bled for worse. They ran it through quirk factor scans. They checked for mutation signs. They tried to map his energy output. The screens showed confusion. The technicians whispered. "His biology is normal," one said, "but his output? There's nothing we can classify." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Try erasure again." Jin Woo turned his head slightly toward Aizawa. "You keep staring, like you want my power to shut off." Aizawa did not flinch. "That's my job." He activated erasure again, eyes red, unblinking. Nothing. Jin Woo felt the gaze. He felt the intent behind it. But his shadow stayed attached to him like a second skin, and his authority over it did not change. Aizawa's throat moved as he swallowed once. He hated unknowns. Endeavor crossed his arms. "So we can't cancel it." "Great." Hawks leaned back in his chair, smiling like he wasn't tense. "So you're either a really weird quirk user, or you're something else." Nezu tapped a pen lightly on the table. "Something else is not a crime, but it is a problem for systems." The commission man slid a stack of papers forward. Jin Woo looked down. So many boxes, so many lines, so many tiny words. Name, address, place of birth, quirk type, quirk strength rating, hero license number, guardian contact. Jin Woo looked up. "If I don't fill this, do you attack me?" The man's smile returned like armor. "No. But you can't operate freely in Japan." Jin Woo picked up the pen. Hawks brightened. "Oh, he's actually doing it." Jin Woo wrote one word in the name box. Jin. Then he stopped. He pushed the papers back. "I don't have the rest." The commission man's smile turned sharp. "Then we'll need you to stay in a secure location until we can verify." All Might's voice cut in, gentle but firm. "He isn't a prisoner," Endeavor snorted. "He should be." Aizawa's eyes stayed on Jin Woo. "You didn't answer the question. What are you?" Jin Woo considered lying. It would be easier. But he did not like lies. They always made things messier later. "I was weak," he said simply. "Then I became a hunter." Nezu tilted his head. "Hunter? Like a hero?" "No," Jin Woo said. "In my world, gates open. Monsters come out. Hunters go in. If we don't, people die." The room got quieter. All Might's face changed. Not fear, understanding. Like he had heard a story of disaster before. Aizawa's eyes narrowed even more. "And you're, what, the strongest hunter?" Jin Woo did not say yes. He did not say no. He chose the safer truth. "I close gates," he said. Hawks whistled softly. "That's a job." Endeavor leaned forward. "So you admit you're tied to the gate that opened?" Jin Woo looked at him. "I didn't open it." "Then why did it open?" Endeavor snapped. Jin Woo's voice stayed calm. "That's what I'm here to find out." Nezu watched him for a long moment. "If gates are your normal," Nezu said, "this world will feel strange to you." "It does," Jin Woo admitted. All Might spoke, quiet. "In this world, we have quirks. Heroes are licensed. We try to keep order." Jin Woo nodded once. You need permission to save people. Aizawa answered before anyone else. We need rules so powerful people don't become tyrants. Jin Woo did not argue. He had seen tyrants. He had killed some. But he said, rules. Don't stop monsters. Endeavor's flames flickered. And you decide what a monster is. Jin Woo's eyes sharpened slightly. If it kills people, it's a monster. That simple line made the commission man look uneasy. It was too direct, too final. Nezu leaned back. We need a controlled test. Aizawa nodded. And we need to know if he'll follow instructions. Hawks smiled. And if he's going to vanish into the shadows again, I'd like to know before I embarrass myself trying to chase him. Jin Woo's lips barely moved. Not quite a smile. Almost. All right, he said. Test me. UA felt like a fortress and a school at the same time. Jin Woo walked through the halls under escort. Students peeked out from doors like curious cats. Some looked excited. Some looked scared. A group of first years stood at the end of the corridor. Izuku Midoriya stared like his brain was taking notes faster than his eyes could blink. His hands twitched like he wanted to write something down. Katsuki Bakugo's face twisted into a scowl. That him? That's the creepy guy? Shoto Todoroki watched with a calm, cold focus. He did not speak. He measured. Tenya Ida stood stiff as a board, glasses shining. If he is a visitor, he must follow UA rules and… Bakugo cut him off. Shut up. Midoriya swallowed and took a small step forward. He said, voice shaky but honest. You protected those civilians. Jin Woo looked at him. He saw something familiar. A kid who wanted to save people even when it hurt. Yes, Jin Woo said. Midoriya's eyes shone. Thank you. Bakugo scoffed. Chi, he did it with some gross trick. Jin Woo's eyes slid to Bakugo. You're loud. Bakugo bristled. Say that again. Aizawa's voice cut in like a knife. Bakugo, enough. Bakugo clicked his tongue, but stayed put, eyes burning. Jin Woo kept walking, but he remembered the sound of Bakugo's anger. Anger was often just fear with a different mask. Nezu led him to a training area. Today's test is simple, Nezu said. Rescue. A giant building mock-up stood in the field, half collapsed on purpose. Smoke machines pumping gray clouds out of broken windows. Mannequins lay under rubble. Sirens blared. Robots and traps, Nezu said. We want to see how you move, how you prioritize. Jin Woo nodded. Where are the real people? There are none, Nezu said. Only staff observers. Jin Woo's shoulders loosened slightly. Good. All Might stood beside the field, arms crossed, eyes careful. He was watching Jin Woo the way a teacher watched a student, but also the way a symbol watched a storm. Aizawa stood further back, ready to intervene. Hawks perched on a railing like a bored bird, but his eyes never blinked too long. Begin, Nezu said. Jin Woo stepped forward. He did not rush into the smoke. He stopped at the edge and listened. He did not hear breathing. He did not hear crying. He heard machines. He heard gears. He heard the shifting of rubble. He lifted a hand. A thin black ripple spread across the ground and slipped into the ruined building like ink. Shadow scouts. A moment later, the shadows returned, sliding back to his feet. Jin Woo moved. He entered through a broken window, body low, smooth. He stepped over a fallen beam like it weighed nothing. He stopped at a fake body under concrete. He placed his hand on the slab. A shadow soldier rose beside him and lifted, not with muscle, but with controlled force like a crane. The slab moved. The mannequin was free. Jin Woo placed it gently aside. He moved to the next. And the next. From outside, it looked unreal. One person moved through smoke, and the building obeyed him. Midoriya watched from the fence, mouth open. "He's not even using brute force," he whispered. "He's managing the scene." Todoroki nodded slightly. "Like a disaster team." Bakugo gripped the fence. "It's still cheating." Ida sputtered. "It is not cheating if it is his ability," Bakugo growled. "Shut up!" Inside the building, a trap triggered. A metal wall slammed down, cutting off a corridor. Jin Woo looked at it, then at the shadow at his feet. He stepped backward into the darkness and vanished. He appeared on the other side of the wall in a blink, like he had used the dark itself as a door. Hawks' smile faded for the first time. His eyes sharpened. "That's not normal movement." Aizawa's jaw tightened. "No." Jin Woo continued, calm, steady, efficient. When the drill ended, the staff counted. He had saved every mannequin. He had avoided every trap. He had not taken a single hit. He walked out of the smoke, clothes untouched, eyes calm as if he had been on a quiet walk. Nezu's smile was polite, but his mind was clearly moving fast. "Impressive." Jin Woo nodded. "It's basic." Endeavor's eyes burned. "Basic," he repeated, like it tasted bad. All Might stepped closer. "You do this often?" Jin Woo looked at him. "Every day, back home." All Might's face tightened. He understood what that meant. Aizawa spoke. "If you can do that, you can do worse." Jin Woo did not deny it. He simply said, "Yes." That honesty made it harder, not easier. The commission man appeared again with another stack of forms. This time, there were more pages. Temporary visitor permit. Special case oversight agreement. No unsupervised operations. No use of unknown powers in public without approval. Jin Woo stared at the papers for a long moment. Then he did something that made Hawks choke on a laugh. A shadow soldier rose beside him, perfectly straight, and took the stack with both hands like a polite office worker. The shadow soldier held it out to Jin Woo like it expected him to sign. Jin Woo looked at it. "Don't encourage them." The soldier saluted again. Hawks laughed openly. "Okay, that's kind of adorable in a terrifying way." Aizawa did not laugh, but his eyes flicked to the shadow soldier and back. He was thinking the same thing everyone was thinking. If even the shadows were disciplined, then the man controlling them was more dangerous than he looked. That night, far from UA, in a room that felt like rot and old stone, a man sat in the dark, like he owned it. All for One listened to reports with calm patience. On a screen, he watched shaky phone footage, the gate, the shadows, the soldier saluting. Dr. Garaki stood beside him, eyes bright with a scientist's hunger. "It is not a quirk," Garaki said. "It does not match any known factor. It is external." All for One's voice was soft. "External things can be taken." Shigaraki, leaning against a wall, scratched his neck. "So what? We fight him?" All for One chuckled, almost kindly. "No." He pointed at the screen. "We learn him." Garaki's grin widened. "A sample would help." All for One's tone stayed gentle. "Then we will create a situation where he must show more." Shigaraki's eyes narrowed. "And if he kills our people?" All for One's voice became colder without getting louder. "Then our people were useful." Back at UA, Jin Woo stood on a balcony and looked out at Musutafu. The city lights were bright. The streets felt clean. People laughed. It looked safe. That did not comfort him. It made his chest feel tight, because he knew how fast safety could crack. His shadow moved under his feet like a living map. He could still feel the gate's trail. Faint, thin, but real. And somewhere in the dark, something had noticed him back. Aizawa appeared behind him without a sound. "You don't sleep much," Aizawa said. "I sleep when I can, Jin Woo answered. Aizawa's eyes stayed on the city. We're letting you stay here for now. Jin Woo waited. Aizawa continued, voice flat. But you do anything that puts students at risk. I don't care what you are. I stop you. Jin Woo nodded once. Fair. Aizawa turned his head slightly. And your name? Jin. That's not the full one. Jin Woo's eyes did not change. It's enough. Aizawa's gaze sharpened. For now. Jin Woo looked down at the moving shadow at his feet. In his world, names mattered. Titles mattered. They were earned in blood. Here, a name was also a form field. He almost found that funny. Almost. The next day, the first scream came from the industrial ward near the docks. A black fog rose from between warehouses like a wound in the air. Then the sirens started again. This time, there was no confused pause. The pros moved fast. Patrols rushed in. Hawks flew ahead to scout. Endeavor rose into the sky like a burning flare. Aizawa sprinted across rooftops, eyes already focused. At UA, alarms blared. Teachers moved students into safe zones. But the message came in clear. Unknown phenomenon. Possible villain attack. Civilians trapped. Multiple life signs in danger. Jin Woo felt it before anyone told him. The air changed again. Not exactly like the first gate, but close. Like someone was trying to copy it. He stepped into the hall. Nezu was already there, calm as always. That's not a drill, Nezu said. All Might's face was hard. We're going. Aizawa looked at Jin Woo. You stay here unless I say. Jin Woo walked past him. Aizawa's capture weapon snapped out, wrapping around Jin Woo's arm. The cloth went tight. Jin Woo stopped, not because it held him, but because he chose to. He looked back at Aizawa. There are civilians, Jin Woo said. Aizawa's eyes were sharp. And there are students here. Jin Woo's voice stayed calm. Then keep them safe. He stepped into his shadow. The capture cloth went slack. Jin Woo vanished. Hawks, already in the air miles away, got a ping in his ear. He moved, the operator said. Hawks's eyes widened slightly. Yeah, he murmured. I noticed. The docks were chaos. A warehouse had split open as if something inside had pushed its way out. The air above the cracked ground shimmered. That same black-purple edge pulsed like a heartbeat. People ran between shipping containers, tripping, slipping, screaming. And behind them, things chased. They were not like Nomu, not like anything heroes trained for. They looked like monsters from a storybook, but real. Clawed, hunched shapes with too many teeth. Some were small and fast, darting in packs. One was taller, heavy, dragging its claws across metal, making sparks. Endeavor shouted orders, voice booming. Evacuate! Move! Keep them back! His flames roared forward, a wall of heat that forced the smaller monsters to recoil. But they did not panic like animals. They regrouped. Hawks swooped low, feathers slicing through the air like blades, cutting monsters away from a mother and her child. He grabbed the child under one arm and lifted them onto a container roof. Aizawa hit the ground running, eyes locked on the monsters. He activated erasure out of habit. Nothing happened. He cursed under his breath. Of course, these were not quirk users. They were just wrong. Then the villains arrived. Not in the open, from the sides. A truck smashed through a fence and spilled smoke bombs. Shapes moved inside the smoke. Nomu. Not one. 3. High-end shapes, stitched and muscular, grinning like nightmares. Endeavor's flames flared higher. Now, he growled. This is your work. Hawks's smile was gone. They planned this. Aizawa's mind raced. Monsters from a gate and high-end Nomu at the same time. That was not random. That was a test. Someone wanted to see how heroes handled the unknown. A high-end Nomu lunged at a group of evacuees. It moved fast, faster than most people could track. Izawa sprinted to intercept, capture weapon snapping out. The Nomu swatted the cloth aside like it was a toy. Endeavor blasted fire at its face. The Nomu's skin charred, then healed. The evacuees stumbled, trapped between a container wall and the Nomu's shadow. Then the ground behind them darkened. A line of shadow soldiers rose like a curtain being lifted. They stood shoulder to shoulder, blades angled down, forming a shield wall. The evacuees froze. One man whispered, "Not again!" Jin Woo stepped out from between two containers like he had been there the whole time. He did not shout. He did not pose. He looked at the gate first, then the monsters, then the Nomu, then the heroes. His eyes narrowed slightly. This is not natural, he thought. Someone is mixing things. Endeavor spotted him and barked, "You! This is your mess!" Jin Woo's voice stayed even. "No." Hawks landed nearby, feathers spread, breathing controlled. "Glad you could make it," Hawks said, like this was a casual meeting. But his eyes were serious. "We've got two problems." Jin Woo nodded once. "I see." Izawa arrived beside them, panting once, then steady. "Can you close it?" he asked, not wasting time. Jin Woo looked at the pulsing edge. He felt the pull. Weak, unstable, like a door held open by a shaking hand. "Maybe," Jin Woo said. Endeavor scoffed. "Maybe isn't good enough." A high-end Nomu roared and charged again, this time at Endeavor. Endeavor met it head-on, flames exploding outward. The Nomu slammed into the fire, burning, healing, burning again. It smiled through the flames. Jin Woo's gaze locked on it. He understood regeneration. He understood monsters that did not stop. He took one step forward. His shadow spread. "Arise," he said again. Quiet. The dock lights flickered. More shadows rose. Not dozens. Hundreds. They poured out from beneath containers, under trucks, from the cracks in the pavement. They did not scream. They did not scramble. They formed units. Some moved to civilians, lifting people, guiding them, guarding them. Some moved to the monsters, cutting them down in clean lines. And a few moved toward Jin Woo like bodyguards. One of them was different. Taller. Armor more refined. A crimson cape that looked dark in the dock lights. A sword held with the calm pride of a knight. Igris. Izawa's breath caught for a second. He has elites. Hawks's eyes widened, then narrowed. So that salute earlier wasn't cute. It was military. Endeavor's anger flared into something else. Jealousy. Because the battlefield was starting to look like it belonged to the stranger. The high-end Nomu tore free of Endeavor's flames and lunged toward Jin Woo as if it could sense the real threat. Jin Woo did not move back. He lifted his hand slightly. Shadows surged up like a wave and grabbed the Nomu's limbs. The Nomu ripped through the first layer with brute force. It was strong. Stronger than most humans in this world. But it was still fighting a system, not a person. Igris stepped in. One swing. A clean cut across the Nomu's chest. The Nomu staggered, then healed, snarling. It tried to punch Igris. Igris bent just enough to avoid it, then drove his sword into the Nomu's shoulder and pinned it to a container wall with one hand. Jin Woo moved closer, eyes focused. He did not take joy in this. He did not get angry. He got efficient. The Nomu's head snapped toward him, grin wide, teeth sharp. Jin Woo's shadow rose like a hand and slammed the Nomu's jaw shut. The Nomu growled through clenched teeth. Jin Woo leaned in slightly, voice low. "You're not a monster from a gate," he said. "You're made." The Nomu did not answer, but someone else did. From the smoke, a villain with a voice changer shouted, "Get the data! Keep him busy!" Hawks's feathers snapped out like a storm, slicing through smoke toward the voice. Aizawa sprinted after him, eyes scanning for the controller. Endeavor's flames roared higher, pushing back the gate monsters. But the monsters kept coming. More of them spilled out, pack after pack, drawn by the open door. Jin Woo looked at the gate again. If he focused on closing it, civilians might die to the Nomu and villains. If he focused on the Nomu, the gate would keep feeding the battlefield. In his world, the rule was simple. Close the gate first. But this world had villains who used chaos like a weapon. He made a choice. He split his army. Half the shadows formed a massive ring around the gate, fighting the monsters back into the opening, cutting them down as they came out. The other half expanded across the docks, turning the whole area into a controlled zone. Rescue lanes, guard posts, fast strike teams. Endeavor watched, teeth clenched, because the plan was good. Too good. He hated that. A second high-end Nomu leaped over a container and slammed into the shadow lines, tearing soldiers apart with brute force. Shadows fell, then melted, then rose again behind it. The Nomu blinked, confused for half a second. It had never fought an enemy that did not stay dead. Jin Woo's eyes sharpened. He stepped into a shadow and appeared above the Nomu's head, landing on its shoulders like he weighed nothing. He grabbed its skull with one hand. The Nomu thrashed, trying to throw him. Jin Woo held on. "Stay down," he said. His shadow surged into the Nomu's body like chains. The Nomu's limbs locked. It screamed. It tried to heal through restraint. The healing did not help if it could not move. Aizawa saw it from across the docks and felt cold again. He can immobilize it without touching a quirk. Hawks flashed past, dragging a villain out of the smoke by the collar. "Found your loud guy," Hawk said, voice tight. The villain laughed, even while being dragged. "Too late. We already got what we needed." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "What did you take?" The villain coughed, still laughing. "A piece." Aizawa's stomach dropped. He turned sharply, scanning the battlefield. He saw it. A shadow soldier on the edge of the fight flickered, not from damage, from interference, like something was pulling at it. A small device sat on the ground nearby, humming, lights blinking. It was drawing the shadow like a magnet. Jin Woo felt it too. His head snapped toward the device. His shadows were loyal. They were part of him. Someone was trying to take them. That crossed a line. For the first time, Jin Woo's calm cracked. Not into rage like Bakugo, into something colder. He lifted his hand, fingers curling slightly. The shadow soldier being pulled, straightened, then stopped resisting the pull. It walked toward the device. Then it saluted. To the device, like it was following protocol. Hawks blinked. Did it just... The device beeped rapidly. A compartment snapped shut. It captured something. Not a whole soldier, but a chunk of shadow essence, like ink in a bottle. Aizawa's eyes widened. They stole part of his power. Endeavor roared and blasted fire at the smoke where the villains were escaping. Flames hit containers and exploded into steam and sparks. But the villains had planned their exit. They moved behind fireproof barriers. They vanished into tunnels and trucks. Jin Woo stepped toward the device. Igris moved with him, blade ready. Jin Woo did not chase the fleeing villains yet, because the gate pulsed harder. A deep sound rolled out, like a giant breathing. The tall monster at the edge of the gate pushed through, forcing smaller monsters aside. This one was a mini-boss. Heavy, thick hide, long arms, a horned head. It slammed its claws into the pavement and roared, shaking the metal containers. Civilians screamed again. Endeavor cursed. "More?" Hawks's feathers spread wider. "We can't keep this contained." Aizawa's eyes flicked to Jin Woo. "Can you close it now?" Jin Woo looked at the gate, then at the people. He made the hunter's choice at last. "Hold them," he said. Endeavor snarled. "Don't give me orders." All Might's voice rang out from a distance, arriving with police support and hero units, breath tight, but eyes fierce. "Endeavor, do it." Endeavor's flames flared. For a split second, he looked shocked that All Might had spoken like that in this form. Then he moved. He and Hawks and the arriving heroes threw everything at the monsters and the boss, creating space. Aizawa sprinted to protect fleeing civilians, using his capture weapon to yank people away from danger. Jin Woo walked straight toward the gate. The air around it felt wrong, thin, forced. He placed his hand in the air near the edge, like he was touching a doorframe. His shadows formed a circle around him, blades out, guarding him while he focused. Jin Woo closed his eyes for 1 second. He searched for the lock. In his world, gates had a core, a boss, a center, something that anchored the door. This gate felt like it was missing part of itself, like it had been built in a hurry. He felt a thread. He grabbed it with his will. Then he pulled. The gate shuddered. The purple edge flared. The monster screamed, not in fear, but in anger, like something was taking their way out. Jin Woo pulled again. The gate started to fold inward, like a closing eyelid. The boss monster roared and charged toward Jin Woo, trying to stop him. Igris stepped in front of it. One strike. The boss monster's arm split open. It did not fall, but it slowed. Shadow soldiers piled onto it from the sides, locking its legs, climbing its back, stabbing into joints. The boss fought like a beast. The shadows fought like a net. Endeavor blasted it with a focused flame lance, burning its face. Hawks's feathers pinned its limbs. Aizawa's capture cloth wrapped around its neck and yanked its head back, buying a second. Jin Woo used that second. He pulled the thread hard. The gate snapped shut. The black-purple edge collapsed into a thin line, then into nothing. The air went light again. The last monsters on this side of the gate shuddered and melted into shadow dust, like they were no longer connected to anything. Silence hit the docks in a wave. People coughed in smoke. Metal creaked. Water slapped against the pier. Endeavor stood breathing hard, flames lowering. Hawks landed, feathers retracting slowly, eyes still sharp. Aizawa stared at the empty space where the gate had been, then at Jin Woo. All Might stepped closer, face tight with worry and relief. "You closed it," All Might said. Jin Woo nodded once, but his eyes were not on All Might. They were on the small device a villain had left behind, on the fact that someone here had tried to steal a piece of his shadow, on the fact that this gate had felt artificial, like bait. Endeavor broke the quiet first. "This proves it," he said, voice harsh. "You're too dangerous to be loose." Jin Woo finally looked at him. "I saved your people," Jin Woo said, voice calm again, but colder than before. Endeavor's jaw clenched. "And you brought a war zone with you." Jin Woo did not deny the fear. He did not accept the blame. He simply said, "Someone in your world made this worse on purpose." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "You think this was planned?" Jin Woo nodded. "Yes." Hawks exhaled slowly. "Great. So there's a mastermind." All Might's hands tightened into fists. "Then we find them." Jin Woo looked out over the docks. Civilians were alive. That mattered. But the enemy had learned something today, too. They had seen the shadows. They had tested the heroes. They had stolen a piece. And now everyone in this world, heroes, villains, and the people in suits, would look at him the same way. Not as a person, as a weapon. Jin Woo turned slightly, letting his shadow soldiers line up behind him again without being told. One of them saluted, as if marking the end of an operation. Jin Woo ignored the salute. He only watched the empty air where the gate had been, and thought one simple, heavy thought. If gates can be forced open here, he told himself, then this world is about to learn what my world already knows. And somewhere far away, in a dark room full of old, evil patients, All for One watched the footage and smiled, because the anomaly had finally shown enough to be worth hunting back. The video hit the internet before the smoke fully cleared. A shaky phone clip showed a black hole in the air above the docks. It showed monsters pouring out like a nightmare. It showed Endeavor's fire blasting across containers. It showed Hawks diving for civilians. And then it showed the shadows. Hundreds of dark soldiers rising out of the ground in straight lines. A tall knight, with a cape, cutting a monster's arm in one clean swing. A calm young man stepping out of darkness, like it was a doorway. The comments exploded. Is that a villain? Undead quirk? Why didn't Eraser cancel it? Hero commission hiding a secret weapon? Those things saluted him. That's not normal. News drones hovered over the dock perimeter until police forced them back. Reporters spoke into cameras with tight smiles and wide eyes. This is the second incident involving the unknown individual, one anchor said. We still do not have an official name or quirk classification. In a small apartment across town, a woman watched the footage while her daughter clutched a stuffed toy. The daughter pointed at the screen. Mom, those soldiers saved people. The mother swallowed. Yeah, she whispered. But why do they look like that? That question spread faster than any fire. Fear did not care about facts. Fear cared about shapes. And the shadows looked like fear. Inside a clean government building, a meeting room filled up with people who wore suits, like armor. The Hero Public Safety Commission sat at the head of the table. Their faces were calm. Their hands were not. A screen showed a freeze frame of the unknown man. The image caught him mid-turn, eyes calm, mouth flat, shadows behind him in perfect rows. A woman with clipped speech tapped the table. Public trust is shaking. A man beside her replied, Public trust always shakes when something new arrives. She narrowed her eyes. This is not a new hero costume. This is not a new quirk. It is a force we cannot control. A younger official slid a report forward. We ran the standard quirk factor tests again. Nothing. We ran combat prediction models. His response time and field control exceed most top pros. The woman's gaze hardened. Then, we treat him as a disaster that can talk. Another official leaned forward. He saved civilians. He closed the anomaly. And then he vanished from custody, she said coldly. Do not mistake cooperation for obedience. A picture of the small device from the docks appeared on the screen. The recovered casing was scorched, but the internal storage unit survived. The younger official swallowed. This device captured something, not a full body, not DNA, something like energy residue. From him, the woman said. Yes. A silence settled in the room. The woman spoke again, slow and clear. We need him registered, limited, observed. If he refuses, we need a plan that doesn't rely on hoping he stays nice. A man at the far end said, Eraserhead cannot cancel him. Standard suppressants likely won't work. Then we make a new category, she replied. Anomaly asset, special oversight, and we make it sound polite. Someone else muttered. And if he says no? The woman stared at the freeze frame. Then we stop letting him choose when to appear. At UA, the staff meeting felt like a storm trapped inside a room. All Might sat with his hands folded, posture straight even in his thin form. He looked tired, but his eyes were bright with stubborn belief. Nedzu listened without blinking, calm as ever. Aizawa stood with his arms crossed, scarf hanging loose, eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. Hawks leaned against a wall like he didn't care. but he was watching everything. Endeavor's presence filled the room like heat from a furnace. The Commission's representative placed a stack of papers on the table again. Thicker this time. "We're not asking," the representative said. "We're setting terms." All Might's voice stayed gentle. "He's not a tool," Endeavor scoffed. "If he's not a tool, then he's a threat." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "You're both missing the main issue. We don't know what he will do tomorrow." Nezu tapped a finger softly. "We also don't know what others will do to him tomorrow." Hawk smiled faintly. "Yeah, because villains are definitely going to want a piece of that." The representative's smile was tight. "They already did." Aizawa's gaze sharpened. "You confirmed the device took something." The representative nodded. "And that is another reason we need him contained. If villains can steal his power..." All Might cut in, firmer now. "If villains can steal his power, then your containment plan makes him a bigger target." Endeavor slammed a palm on the table. "Enough. He walked into our world with an army of undead. He doesn't answer questions. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't even have a real name." Nezu's eyes flicked toward the doorway. "About that." The door opened without a sound. He was already there. Jin Woo stepped into the room like he belonged to the shadows between the lights. He wore the same dark clothing. No badge, no school uniform, no fear. For a moment, nobody spoke. Even Endeavor paused, because the air felt different when Jin Woo was close. Not heavy like the gate, just alert. Aizawa's eyes locked onto him instantly. "How long were you listening?" "Long enough," Jin Woo said. The Commission representative straightened. "You cannot keep appearing and disappearing." "That is exactly why." Jin Woo looked at the papers. "More forms." The representative forced a calm tone. "Legal requirements." Jin Woo's voice stayed flat. "In my world, when a gate opens, nobody asks for paperwork." Endeavor sneered. "This isn't your world." Jin Woo met his eyes. "Then stop trying to make my power fit your boxes." Aizawa stepped forward half a pace. "You don't get to ignore systems because you're strong." Jin Woo's eyes did not harden, but they became sharper. "And you don't get to delay rescue because you want control." All Might raised a hand slightly, a calm signal. "We need trust." Jin Woo looked at All Might. His voice softened just a little. "Trust is earned." Nezu asked, polite as always. "Then how do we earn yours?" Jin Woo paused. The honest answer was simple. "Don't lie," he said. "Don't use civilians as bait. And don't try to steal my shadows." The Commission representative's smile cracked. "We didn't." Jin Woo cut him off, still calm. "Someone tried, and your people wanted to study me the moment I arrived." Silence. Hawk scratched the back of his head. "Okay. Fair." Aizawa's scarf shifted as he tightened his grip unconsciously. "Tell us what you are." Jin Woo's gaze moved to him. "You want a label so you can plan?" "Yes," Aizawa said. Jin Woo answered honestly again. "I'm a hunter." Endeavor barked a short laugh. "That means nothing here." "It means everything," Jin Woo replied. "It means when there's a threat, I go toward it, even if people hate me for it." Aizawa watched him for a long second. Then he said the real fear out loud. "And when there is no threat," Aizawa asked, "what do you do when you get bored?" The room tightened. Jin Woo looked away toward the window, toward the bright school grounds where students trained and laughed at a distance. "I don't fight for fun," he said. Aizawa did not relax. "Power changes people." Jin Woo's voice stayed low. "I know." That answer wasn't a denial, it was a memory. All Might leaned forward. "Then stay close. Let us help you." Jin Woo looked back at him. "Help me do what?" All Might hesitated. Because the truth was, they didn't know what to do with someone like this. A protector who didn't need their help. A weapon that didn't want to be owned. Nezu spoke quietly. "Help you find the source of the anomalies." Jin Woo nodded once. "Good." Endeavor's flames flickered at his beard. "And if he refuses our rules?" Jin Woo looked at Endeavor like he was looking at a wall that kept getting in the way. "I will not hurt your people," Jin Woo said, "but I will not become your soldier." The commission representative opened his mouth again. Before he could speak, a shadow soldier rose silently beside Jin Woo, holding a pen. It placed the pen on the table with careful hands. Then it placed a blank clipboard beside it. Then it stood straight and saluted. Hawks burst out laughing. "No way! Is it trying to help with paperwork?" Jin Woo's face did not change, but his eyes flicked down like he was mildly annoyed. "Stop," he murmured. The shadow soldier didn't move. It kept saluting. Nezu's smile widened. "Fascinating. It mimics social protocol." Aizawa's gaze hardened again. "Or it's learning." Jin Woo snapped his fingers once. The shadow soldier lowered its arm and melted back into the floor, as if embarrassed. For a second, the room felt less tense. Then Endeavor ruined it. "We can't leave him free," Endeavor said. "He's already changing how villains move, how the public feels, how heroes look." All Might's voice turned firm, a rare edge. "Heroes are not here to look good," Endeavor's eyes flashed. "Easy to say when you were the symbol." All Might stiffened, but he didn't strike back. Hawks cleared his throat. "We can argue later. Right now, villains are going to strike again. They already poked him. They got a piece. You don't poke a dragon unless you want to see if it burns." Jin Woo looked at Hawks. "Dragon?" Hawks shrugged. "Figure of speech. Don't overthink it." Jin Woo didn't smile, but the tension in his shoulders eased a fraction. Aizawa stepped closer to Jin Woo, voice low enough that the suits couldn't turn it into a headline. "If someone is trying to steal your shadows, it won't stop. They will come for students next, because that's how you force heroes to make bad choices." Jin Woo's eyes sharpened. "Then they'll die." Aizawa held his gaze. "Not if we plan." Jin Woo nodded once. Not agreement with rules, agreement with reality. 2 days later, the city tried to pretend it was normal again. But normal had cracks now. Police lines stayed up near the docks. Posters went up in neighborhoods. Report any suspicious, dark figures. It was meant to be about villains. People assumed it was about the shadows. At UA, students whispered more than they trained. Midoriya sat on his bed with a notebook open, scribbling in fast, messy writing. "Shadow soldiers," he whispered to himself. "They move like trained units. They prioritize civilians. They follow commands instantly. But they salute. That means they have behavior, not just puppets." He looked up at the dorm window. Somewhere out there, Jin Woo existed like a question nobody could answer. Bakugo stormed into the common room with a scowl. "He's still here." Kirishima blinked. Yeah?" Bakugo slammed a hand on the table. "That guy, he's not a hero, he's not a villain, he's just cheating." Todoroki spoke from the couch, calm. "You mean he's strong?" Bakugo's eye twitched. "I mean he's hiding things." Midoriya swallowed, then said quietly, "He saved people." Bakugo snapped. "So what? Plenty of villains save people when it benefits them." Midoriya flinched. Todoroki's voice stayed even. "He didn't look like he wanted attention." Bakugo leaned in. "That's what makes it worse." Midoriya looked down at his notebook, heart pounding. He hated conflict, but he also hated unfairness. "He looked tired," Midoriya said softly. Bakugo froze for half a second. "What?" Midoriya's voice shook, but he pushed through. When he stood at the docks, He looked like he's done this 1,000 times. Like he expects people to die if he makes one mistake. The room got quieter. Even Bakugo didn't have a quick insult for that. Todoroki nodded slightly. That fits. Bakugo clicked his tongue and turned away. Whatever. If he's so strong, he can prove it. Midoriya whispered, almost to himself. I think he already has. Underground, where light did not reach and morals did not matter. All for One listened to the new report. Garaki placed a small container on a metal tray. Inside it, a swirl of darkness moved like thick ink. A sample, Garaki said with a satisfied grin. Shadow residue. It tries to return to its source. All for One's voice was calm, almost amused. Like a loyal dog. Garaki's eyes gleamed. Or like a power with rules. Rules can be copied. Shigaraki scratched at his neck, eyes narrowed. So you're gonna make a shadow Nomu? Garaki's mouth stretched into a grin. Not immediately. First, we learn how it reacts to quirk stimulation. All for One leaned forward slightly. And then, Garaki lifted a second device. And then we make the world afraid of him. Shigaraki's lips curled. Good. All for One's tone stayed soft. Fear makes people ask for control. And the Commission loves control. Garaki chuckled. So we give them a reason. All for One's fingers tapped the armrest. Do not attack him directly. A lion doesn't need to chase flies. We force him to chase what matters. Shigaraki tilted his head. Kids. All for One smiled. Precisely. The next incident did not start with a gate. It started with a rumor. A call came into UA security about a dark figure seen near a middle school on the edge of Musutafu. Parents panicked. Police moved in. News drones arrived, hungry for a repeat. Aizawa stood on a rooftop across the street. Eyes narrowed, scarf fluttering slightly in the wind. Hawks landed beside him, feathers tucked. Expression light but voice serious. You smell a trap too? Aizawa nodded. If villains want to frame him, they don't need a gate. They need a video. Below, a group of frightened kids huddled in the school courtyard while teachers tried to keep them calm. A shadow moved at the edge of the courtyard. Parents screamed. Police raised weapons. Aizawa's eyes widened for a fraction of a second because he saw it clearly. A shadow soldier, standing still, not attacking, not moving, just there. Hawk's expression tightened. That's one of his. Aizawa's scarf snapped as he moved, jumping down and landing between the shadow and the crowd. Don't move, he said, voice sharp. The shadow soldier tilted its head. Then it did something that made Aizawa's stomach twist. It raised its hand and saluted. Hawks muttered, That's going to look terrible on camera. Aizawa stared. Why are you here? The shadow soldier didn't speak. It pointed slowly toward the street corner. Aizawa turned his head. A van sat parked with its door slightly open. Inside, something shifted. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Bomb. Hawk's feathers spread. I'll handle it. He launched forward like a dart, feathers slicing the van door off in a clean cut. Inside wasn't a bomb. It was a device, a humming box, wired to the ground. The same kind of tech as the dock device. It was bait. And the moment Hawks exposed it, the device flashed. A thin wave spread out across the courtyard like a ripple in water. Parents screamed again as more shadows appeared. Not Jin Woo's disciplined soldiers. These were messy, twisted, wrong. They crawled out of corners and under benches like spilled ink, trying to become a person. Their movement was jerky. Their shapes didn't hold. Aizawa's blood went cold. They made fake shadows, Hawks cursed, and they'll blame him. The fake shadows lunged toward the crowd, not to protect, but to scare. Aizawa snapped his scarf out, yanking kids back and away. Hawk's feathers pinned the fake shadows to the pavement, but they kept struggling like glitches. News drones zoomed in, filming everything. Then the real darkness arrived. Jin Woo stepped out of a shadow at the edge of the courtyard, eyes sharp now, not calm. The fake shadows reacted like metal to a magnet. They turned toward him, and the device began to scream, lights blinking. Jin Woo understood instantly. They weren't just framing him. They were testing whether they could pull his power away again. He moved, fast. Aizawa barely saw him cross the courtyard. Jin Woo's hand slammed down onto the device. The shadow at Jin Woo's feet surged into it like a spear. The device shattered. The fake shadows collapsed like puppets with cut strings. Parents stared. Cameras recorded. Kids cried. Jin Woo stood still, breathing controlled. Eyes scanning rooftops and alleys for the person who planted it. Hawks landed beside him. "You just saved your own reputation," Hawks said under his breath. Jin Woo didn't look at him. "They're learning." Aizawa's eyes were hard. "So are we." Jin Woo finally turned his head slightly toward Aizawa. "I'm not staying in your building while they do this." Aizawa didn't argue. He knew Jin Woo was right. Jin Woo's voice stayed low, but it carried weight. "I'll find where this came from." Hawks's smile returned, thin and sharp. "And I'll pretend I'm not following you." Jin Woo glanced at him. "Don't get in my way." Hawks held up 2 fingers like a casual salute. "No promises." Jin Woo stepped into the shadow and vanished again. Aizawa watched the spot where he disappeared. Then he looked up at the news drones circling above. "Now," Aizawa muttered, "the whole country is going to want him either chained or dead." And somewhere far away, All for One smiled, because the trap had worked. Not perfectly, but enough. Night made the city quieter, but it did not make it safer. Jin Woo moved across rooftops without sound. His shadows spread out beneath the streets, slipping through sewer lines and under doors, listening, watching, mapping. He did not need binoculars. He did not need drones. He had an army that could become 1,000 eyes, but he kept it controlled. He wasn't here to scare people. He was here to hunt. The device from the school had left a scent, not a smell, not exactly. A faint pull in the shadow world, like a thread tied to a knot somewhere. Jin Woo followed that thread. Behind him, in the sky, Hawks followed too. Hawks was good. Quiet in the air. Hard to spot. But Jin Woo spotted him anyway. Not with eyes, with intent. Hawks wasn't hunting Jin Woo, he was watching him. Jin Woo allowed it, for now, because Hawks wasn't the enemy. The thread led to the edge of the city, where warehouses sat like sleeping animals. Trucks moved in slow lines. Security lights swept across fences. A place like this didn't scream villain lair. That was why it was perfect. Jin Woo crouched on a roof and looked down. Guards walked patrol paths. Their posture was too stiff. Their timing was too perfect. Not normal security. Hawks landed behind him on the roof edge, light as a feather. "So," Hawks whispered, "you just do this every night?" Jin Woo didn't look at him. "If you want to talk, talk later." Hawk's voice stayed soft. "Aizawa's worried you'll go alone and make a war." Jin Woo's eyes stayed on the fence. "If I go with your rules, they'll move before we arrive." Hawk sighed quietly. "Can't argue that." Jin Woo lifted a hand. A shadow slipped under the fence and returned a second later. Jin Woo saw through it like it was his own eyes. Inside the warehouse, crates, cold storage, a side corridor with a keypad lock, cameras, and a symbol on the wall that was scraped off, as if someone had removed a brand. "Underground route," Jin Woo murmured. Hawks blinked. "You can see through them." "Yes," Hawks muttered. That's unfair. Jin Woo didn't answer. He stepped into the roof shadow and dropped into the yard, appearing behind a stack of crates without a sound. Hawks followed, landing behind him with a quiet flap. They moved together. A strange pair, a calm hunter and a smiling spy. Jin Woo sent 2 shadow soldiers ahead. They did not charge. They walked with slow, controlled steps, like night guards. A guard turned, saw them, froze. He opened his mouth to shout. A shadow hand covered his mouth from behind. Another shadow soldier caught him gently and lowered him to the ground. No blood. No panic. Just removal. Hawks raised his brows. You really don't like noise. Jin Woo's voice stayed low. Noise gets civilians killed. They reached the locked corridor. Jin Woo placed his palm near the keypad. The shadow beneath it slid upward, thin as smoke, and slipped inside the crack around the doorframe. A second later, the lock clicked. Hawks stared. That's not even fair. That's cheating. Jin Woo finally looked at him. Stop using that word. Hawks grinned faintly. Sorry? Habit. They entered. The corridor smelled like metal and cleaning chemicals. At the end, a heavy door sat with a warning label. Authorized personnel only. Jin Woo pushed it open. The room beyond was a lab. Not a clean hospital lab. A cruel lab. Tables with restraints. Tubes. Machines. Storage tanks. And in the center, a device that made Jin Woo's shadow tighten like a fist. A resonator. A machine shaped like a ring, wired into the floor. Inside the ring sat a tank with dark fluid. Not blood. Not oil. Shadow residue. Hawk's expression lost its humor. Okay, that's bad. Jin Woo walked forward, eyes narrowing. They're trying to build a gate. You could feel it now. The same wrong pulse as the docks. The same copied pressure. The resonator was designed to mimic what his world did naturally, and it was feeding on his power. A voice spoke from the shadows of the lab, calm and mocking. I wondered how long it would take you. A man stepped out wearing a plain coat and a mask. His voice was electronically changed. Not a big villain name, a middleman. But he was confident. That meant he had backup. You're the one planting devices, Hawk said, feathers twitching. The man laughed. I'm the one delivering them. Someone above me is very curious. Jin Woo's eyes cooled. Curiosity kills people. The man lifted a remote and clicked it. The lab lights flickered. The tank in the ring surged, and the shadows on the floor began to move against Jin Woo's control. For the first time since arriving, Jin Woo felt resistance in his own element. Not enough to stop him, enough to make him pay attention. Black shapes rose from the floor, copies of his soldiers, but wrong. Their armor looked melted, their limbs stretched, their heads jerked like broken dolls. Hawk's feathers snapped out. Oh, hell no. Aizawa's scarf whipped through the doorway. He wasn't supposed to be here. But of course he was. He stepped in with tired eyes and a ready stance. I told you villains would target students, he said flatly, then glanced at Hawks. And I told you not to go alone. Hawks shrugged. I didn't. He did. Aizawa's gaze shifted to Jin Woo. What is this? Jin Woo's voice stayed calm, but it was edged now. A copy. The fake shadows lunged. Aizawa's erasure did nothing. So he did what he always did. He moved smart. He used his scarf to pull the fake shadows off balance, to yank them into walls, to create openings. Hawk sliced them apart with feathers. But when they fell, they didn't bleed. They split into more pieces, like spilled ink. Jin Woo stepped forward and raised his hand. His real shadow soldiers surged in, disciplined lines smashing into the fake ones, like an organized army crushing a mob. The fake shadows fought like glitches. The real shadows fought like soldiers. Jin Woo walked straight toward the resonator ring. The masked man shouted, "Stop him!" A high-end Nomu dropped from the ceiling like a bomb. It hit the floor, cracking tiles. Its muscles bulged. Its grin was wide. It lunged at Jin Woo. Igris rose instantly, blade flashing, blocking the Nomu's strike. The force of the hit rattled the lab. Aizawa's eyes widened. High-end here too. Hawks swore. They're transporting them through this route. The Nomu pushed against Igris, roaring. Igris held, feet sliding inches, sword locked. Jin Woo didn't waste time. He stepped into a shadow and appeared behind the Nomu. He grabbed its neck. The Nomu thrashed, trying to bite him. Jin Woo tightened his grip and slammed it into the floor once, hard enough to dent metal. The Nomu healed. It laughed. Jin Woo didn't care. He pinned it with shadow chains that crawled over its limbs and locked it down. Then he walked away from it. That calm disrespect shook the Nomu more than pain. It tried to rise. The chains held. Hawks stared for half a second. He just ignored a high end. Aizawa's voice stayed flat, but there was something tight under it. Because it's not the main problem. Jin Woo reached the resonator. The ring pulsed. The tank's dark fluid swirled faster, like it wanted to jump out and attach to him. Jin Woo looked at it like it was a parasite. He lifted his hand. "Stop," he said. His shadow surged into the ring. The machine screamed. Lights burst. The masked man panicked and slammed the remote again. "No! No!" The tank cracked. Dark fluid splashed across the floor. It moved on its own, crawling toward Jin Woo like a living stain. Hawks's feathers shot forward to pin it. The feathers sank into it like it was mud. Aizawa cursed. "It's not physical." Jin Woo's eyes narrowed. "It's hungry." The stain surged toward Aizawa next, as if it wanted the nearest person. Aizawa stepped back, but he was too close. Jin Woo moved. A shadow wall rose between them. The stain hit the wall and stuck, writhing. Jin Woo's voice dropped. "My shadows don't touch humans." He pulled his hand back like he was grabbing a rope. The stain tore away from the wall, dragged toward him. Hawk snapped, "Careful!" Jin Woo didn't answer. He pulled the stain into his shadow like he was swallowing it. For a second, the lab went still. Then the remaining fake shadows collapsed and evaporated, as if their battery had been ripped out. The resonator ring flickered and died. The masked man stared in horror. You just absorbed it?" Jin Woo turned slowly toward him. His eyes were calm again, but colder than the dock fire. "Tell your boss," Jin Woo said, voice quiet. "This ends." The masked man backed away, hands shaking. "You don't get it. You're not just strong. You're a source, a king." Aizawa's gaze sharpened at that word. "King?" The masked man laughed nervously. "Yeah, the Shadow Monarch." The title hit the room like a weight. Hawks's grin vanished. He stared at Jin Woo's back. "Shadow. Monarch." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. He filed it away instantly. A title like that wasn't a nickname. It was a claim. Jin Woo didn't react to the title. He reacted to what the title meant. Someone out there knew more than they should. Before Jin Woo could take a step, alarms blared deeper in the facility. A second lab door slammed open, and a small group of people stumbled out, wrists bound, faces pale. Hostages, support staff, a few teens in work uniforms, one older man with a bruised cheek. The masked man shouted, "If you chase me, they die!" Hawks's feathers snapped outward, anger sharp. "You piece of—" Aizawa's scarf moved like a whip, but he stopped himself. Because the hostages were real, and villains loved forcing heroes to choose. Jin Woo's eyes locked onto the hostages, then onto the masked man. He could catch him. He could end it fast. But if the masked man had a trigger, even 1 second could be too late. Jin Woo made his choice without drama. He stepped away from the masked man. Hawks hissed, "You're letting him go?" Jin Woo didn't look at him. "I'm saving them." The masked man froze, shocked. He had expected rage. He had expected pride. He had expected the king to chase. Jin Woo ignored him and moved to the hostages. Shadow soldiers rose around them, gentle now, cutting ropes, shielding bodies, guiding them out. One teen stared at a shadow soldier with wide eyes. Are you gonna kill us?" The shadow soldier saluted. The teen blinked. Jin Woo spoke softly, voice steady. "You're safe." Behind them, the masked man ran. Hawk started to pursue, feathers ready. Aizawa grabbed Hawks's shoulder. "No," Aizawa snapped. "If you chase, you leave civilians unguarded." Hawks clenched his jaw, then nodded once, furious. Jin Woo watched the doorway the masked man escaped through. He didn't like letting prey leave, but he had learned a long time ago what mattered more. Lives now, hunts later. He turned back to the hostages and escorted them out, shadows forming a moving shield through corridors. When they finally emerged into the open night air, police and hero units rushed in, stunned by what they saw. A line of rescued people walking behind a silent man with an army of shadows that didn't touch them. Cameras were already there. Of course they were. A reporter shouted, "Are you a hero?" Jin Woo didn't answer. He looked at the sky over Musutafu. He could feel it again. A faint pulse, a thin thread. More devices out there. More attempts. This wasn't over. Aizawa stepped beside him, eyes tired. "Shadow Monarch," he said quietly. "That's what they called you." Jin Woo's gaze stayed on the horizon. "Titles don't matter." "They do here," Aizawa replied. Hawks exhaled slowly. "Yeah, because if the public hears Monarch, they won't think helper. They'll think ruler." Jin Woo finally looked at them. "I don't want to rule." Aizawa's voice stayed flat. "Then prove it." Jin Woo's answer was simple. "Watch what I do." He stepped back into the shadow. But this time, he didn't vanish like a runaway. He left 2 shadow soldiers behind. They stood at the edge of the police line, facing outward like guards. One saluted the nearest officer. The officer nearly fainted. Hawks let out a short laugh, despite himself. "Okay, that part is still funny." Aizawa didn't laugh, but his shoulders loosened by a fraction. Because the city had seen something tonight that didn't fit any law or license. A force that could terrify everyone. Choosing, again, to protect instead. And somewhere in the dark, people with power watched the footage and made the same decision in their own minds. He wasn't a rumor anymore. He was the center of the board. And the next moves would be made around him. 2 weeks passed. Musutafu did not feel safe again. It only got used to being scared. The streets went back to traffic and school bells, but people flinched at shadows in alleys. Parents held their kids closer at crosswalks. Police kept extra patrols near warehouses and tunnels. UA felt it too. Teachers acted calm in front of students, but the staff meetings were longer. The security systems were checked twice. Nezu added new drills that nobody joked about. And in the quiet hours, when the city lights turned soft, Jin Woo worked. He did not sleep much. Not because he wanted to be dramatic, because his body did not forget what it meant to be late. Every night, he walked rooftops like a man counting exits in a burning building. His shadow spread under the city like a hidden net. They listened for the wrong hum of a device. They watched for men who moved like trained criminals. They followed trucks that stopped too long. He had made a routine. One shadow stayed near the main hospital. One stayed near the shelter that had taken the worst dock refugees. 2 stayed near the outer wall of UA, far enough that students did not see them, close enough that Jin Woo felt the moment danger touched the grounds. It wasn't hero work. It was hunter work. The first time a shadow soldier saluted a late-night security guard, the guard nearly threw his flashlight and ran. Jin Woo corrected it the next day. The second time, the shadow soldier saluted again. Jin Woo stared at it in the empty lot where he trained alone. "Stop," he said, voice flat. The soldier froze, then saluted with the other hand, like it was trying a new rule. Jin Woo rubbed his forehead once, slow and tired. Then he heard a quiet clap from behind. Hawk stood on a rooftop edge, like a bird that had learned to become a man. He held a small paper bag in one hand. He smiled, like this was friendly. "You're teaching them manners," Hawk said. "I'm trying to stop them from scaring people," Jin Woo replied. Hawks hopped down lightly. "Same thing in this country." Jin Woo didn't answer. He was watching the night. He felt the city. A living thing, loud in the day, nervous at night. Hawks lifted the paper bag. "I brought you something." Jin Woo's eyes flicked to it. "If it's food, no." Hawks blinked. "Wow, cold." Jin Woo's voice stayed calm. "Food isn't the joke. People offering it like a leash is." Hawks chuckled under his breath, then took out what was inside. It wasn't food. It was paper. A folded document. Jin Woo's gaze sharpened. "More forms." "Yep," Hawks said. "But these are the nice forms." Jin Woo didn't take it. Hawks sighed. "Listen, the commission is not going to stop. They can't. Their job is control. They'll call it safety. They'll mean control." Jin Woo's shadow shifted at his feet. "Then they should control villains." "They're trying," Hawks said. His smile faded a little. "And they're failing. Because someone is moving behind the curtain." Jin Woo's eyes narrowed. "All for one." Hawks's gaze tightened. "You know the name." "I've heard it," Jin Woo said. "A king who hides." Hawks let out a small breath. "Yeah, something like that." Jin Woo turned slightly. "Why are you here?" Hawks held up the document again. "Because they're inviting you to a meeting. Official. Cameras will not be there, but it will still be a cage." Jin Woo's voice was flat. "I'm not going." Hawks hesitated. "If you don't, they'll come to you." Jin Woo looked at him, calm and direct. "Then they'll waste time." Hawks's expression sharpened. "And if that time costs a life?" Jin Woo didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened just a little. Hawks pressed, softer now. "I'm not your enemy, Jin. I'm telling you this because if you walk into that room with no plan, you'll end up in a room with no exits." Jin Woo stared at the city lights. Then he nodded once. "Fine," he said. "I'll listen." Hawks's smile returned, quick and tired. "Good. That's good." Jin Woo looked down. A shadow soldier stood at attention like it was waiting for the next command. Jin Woo pointed at the papers in Hawks's hand. "If it salutes them, I'm leaving." Hawks laughed. "Deal." The shadow soldier saluted anyway. Hawks covered his mouth to stop himself from laughing too loudly. "Okay, that one's on you." Jin Woo didn't smile, but the corner of his mouth moved a fraction, then vanished. He stepped into the dark. The commission building was clean, in a way that felt sharp. No dust, no warmth, no extra noise. Even the air smelled controlled. Jin Woo walked through halls with 2 escorts, who tried not to look scared. Hawks walked beside him like a friendly guide, but his eyes checked corners the way a veteran checks a room. Aizawa was there too, leaning against a wall outside the meeting room, arms crossed. His eyes were tired, but awake. "You came," Aizawa said. "I'm listening," Jin Woo replied. Aizawa's scarf shifted slightly. "Good, because if you refuse to talk, they'll talk about you, and that's worse." Jin Woo glanced at him. "You don't like them either." Aizawa didn't deny it. "I like students living." The door opened. Inside, 3 commission officials sat at a table. One of them was the same woman who had spoken on the dock briefings. Her face was calm. Her eyes were not. A folder sat in front of her, thick, marked anomaly in neat print. She gestured. Sit. Jin Woo remained standing. Hawk sat anyway, stretching like he was bored. Aizawa stayed by the wall. The woman didn't blink. We have prepared a special status for you. Jin Woo's voice was quiet. A leash. It is a legal framework, she replied. Provisional authority, oversight, boundaries. Jin Woo stared at the folder. What happens if I refuse? Her mouth moved into a small, polite line. Then you will be considered an unregistered high-level threat operating within Japan. Izawa's eyes narrowed. Hawks' smile flattened. Jin Woo's tone stayed even. And if I accept? Then we will protect you, she said. We will guide your operations. We will prevent misunderstandings with the public. Jin Woo's gaze sharpened. You mean you will decide where I go? She held his gaze. We will decide where you may go. Silence. Hawks tapped the table lightly with one finger. I'm gonna say it, he said. This is a bad pitch. The woman ignored him and slid the folder forward. Sign. Agree to monitoring. Agree to being stationed. Agree to not deploying your entities in public without authorization. Jin Woo looked at the last line. His eyes cooled. If a gate opens, he said, I don't ask for permission. The woman's voice stayed calm. In our society, power must answer to law. Jin Woo leaned forward slightly. In my society, monsters answered to death. Aizawa's jaw tightened. Hawks exhaled slowly, like he'd just watched a car drift too close to a cliff. The woman tried another angle. We can also help you return home. Jin Woo paused. That was a clean hit. A targeted offer. Too clean. How? Jin Woo asked. She tilted her head. We have researchers. We have resources. Jin Woo's voice turned colder. Researchers, like the ones who built the devices that stole my shadow. Her calm finally cracked for half a second. Those were not ours. Jin Woo didn't blink. But you wanted the results. Hawks murmured. He's got you there. The woman straightened. Then tell us what you want. Jin Woo answered honestly. I want the devices gone. I want the gates stopped. I want civilians safe. And if we cannot guarantee that without your cooperation? She asked. Jin Woo's eyes stayed steady. Then I will do it without you. The woman's voice sharpened for the first time. You do not have the right to operate as judge and executioner in our country. Jin Woo's gaze hardened slightly. Then arrest the monsters. Aizawa pushed off the wall, stepping forward a fraction. Enough, he said. You're pushing him into a corner. The woman's eyes narrowed. Teacher Aizawa, this is not your jurisdiction. Aizawa's voice stayed flat. If you start a fight with him, you lose, and people get hurt. That becomes my problem. Hawks leaned back. Also, if you lock him up, villains will attack your building just to prove they can. The woman looked at Jin Woo. Last chance, she said quietly. Sign, or become our enemy. Jin Woo looked down at the folder. A pen waited beside it. For a moment, Hawks thought Jin Woo might pick it up, just to end the noise. Instead, Jin Woo reached down and closed the folder with one hand. He pushed it back. No, he said. The word landed clean. No anger, no negotiation. Just no. The woman's eyes went cold. A hidden alarm button sat under her hand. Aizawa saw her fingers move. Don't, he warned. She pressed it anyway. The lights in the room flickered. A low hum began, vibrating through the walls. Jin Woo felt it instantly. A resonator field, tuned to shadow residue. He could feel it tugging at his connection, trying to pull the edge of his power like a hook. Hawks stood up fast. You just did the dumb thing. Aizawa's eyes burned. I told you. The woman rose too. Containment protocol, she said. The door behind them opened. Not heroes. Agents with special gear. Black suits, visors, devices mounted on their arms that pulsed with the same wrong hum. Jin Woo's shadow stirred, but they did not erupt. He held them down, tight, controlled, because this was a room full of humans, not monsters. One agent raised his device and fired a pulse. Jin Woo's shadow shivered like it had been slapped. Aizawa's scarf snapped out and yanked the agent's arm off target. "Stop!" Aizawa hissed. "You're escalating!" The agent stumbled. Another aimed again. Hawk spread his feathers halfway, warning. "If you start a fight in here, you'll have a body count in the lobby." The woman's voice stayed cold. "He is refusing lawful orders." Jin Woo stepped forward, not rushing, just stepping. The agent fired again. Jin Woo lifted his hand. A shadow wall rose between him and the pulse, absorbing the tug. The wall flickered, but it held. Jin Woo looked at the agents. "Leave," he said. They didn't. Jin Woo sighed once, tired, like he was dealing with a child who kept touching a hot stove. He stepped into the shadow and appeared behind the closest agent. He tapped the agent's device with one finger. The device broke, not exploded, just snapped. Like a cheap toy. The agent spun, panicking. Jin Woo disarmed him with a simple wrist twist and took the visor off with calm hands. The agent's eyes were wide, shocked to be alive. Jin Woo pushed him gently aside. No blood, no drama, just removal. The other agents froze, realizing something important. This wasn't a fight. It was them trying to catch a storm with a net. Aizawa stared at the woman. "This is your plan? Provoke him until he looks dangerous?" Her eyes stayed cold. "We will not be ruled by fear." Hawks barked a humorless laugh. "Lady, that's exactly what you're doing." A distant boom rolled through the building. Not inside the room. Outside. The windows shook slightly. Everyone paused. The woman's face changed for the first time. "What was that?" Hawks's communicator beeped. He pressed it. An operator's voice snapped through. "Multiple incidents across Musutafu," the operator said. "A large-scale attack. Unknown black fog phenomena. Civilians trapped. High-end Nomu sighted." Aizawa's eyes went hard. They timed it. Hawks looked at the woman. "This is why your trap was stupid." Jin Woo was already moving toward the door. The woman stepped in front of him. "If you leave now..." Jin Woo looked at her like she was a wall built in the wrong place. "People are dying." Her jaw tightened. "That is not confirmed," Aizawa snapped. "Move!" She didn't. Jin Woo stepped into the shadow under her feet and appeared on the other side of the room. He opened the door and walked out. Hawks followed instantly. Aizawa followed too. Behind them, the woman's voice called out, sharp and controlled. "Bring him back." No one moved, because the building shook again. And outside, the city was screaming. The attack hit a crowded place on purpose, a public plaza near a train station, big screens, shops, holiday lights, lots of people. Black fog poured from vents like the ground itself was breathing wrong. And inside that fog, things moved. Not the gate monsters from before. These were shadows. But not Jin Woo's disciplined soldiers. These were twisted copies again, thicker and meaner, like someone had mixed his residue with hatred and gave it teeth. People ran and tripped over each other. Cameras recorded it all. A loud voice from a nearby drone speaker blared. "This is the Shadow Monarch's doing." Hawks cursed. "They're framing you live." Aizawa's eyes scanned rooftops. "Find the speaker." Jin Woo didn't answer. He stepped into the plaza like a calm knife entering chaos. His shadows rose instantly, but not as an army at first, as shields, walls, corridors. They formed lanes for civilians to run through, guiding them away from the fog. A little boy stumbled, crying, and a shadow soldier scooped him up carefully and carried him to a police officer. Then it saluted the officer. The officer screamed and fell backward. The shadow soldier froze, confused. Jin Woo's voice snapped once, low and sharp. "No salutes." The soldier lowered its hand slowly. Hawks, even in this chaos, let out a strained laugh. "They really like that?" Aizawa didn't laugh. He was pulling civilians out with his scarf, eyes hard. Above them, a high-end Nomu dropped onto the plaza with a wet crunch. But it wasn't normal. Dark stains moved under its skin like living ink. It grinned and spread its arms wide, as if it wanted to be filmed. Jin Woo felt the wrong pull again. This Nomu was tuned to him. It lunged toward a group of fleeing people, not at Jin Woo. A classic villain move. Force the strong one to choose rescue over victory. Jin Woo moved faster than the camera could follow. He appeared between the Nomu and the civilians in a blink. Shadow step, clean and silent. The Nomu's claws slammed down. Jin Woo caught the wrist with one hand. The ground cracked under his feet. The crowd screamed. The camera zoomed in. Perfect. The Nomu tried to twist and rip his arm off. Jin Woo didn't budge. He looked at the Nomu's face, calm and cold. "You're not alive," Jin Woo said quietly. Then he slammed the Nomu into the pavement once, hard enough to leave a crater. The Nomu healed and laughed. Jin Woo didn't care. He raised his other hand. Shadow chains wrapped the Nomu's limbs and pinned it to the broken stone. The Nomu strained. The dark stains under its skin pulsed, trying to interfere with Jin Woo's control. For a second, Jin Woo felt the tug. He tightened his grip on his own power, like a man gripping a rope in a storm. The interference weakened. The Nomu's grin faltered. It had expected a wobble. It didn't get one. Aizawa watched from the side, breath tight. "He's resisting the resonance." Hawk sliced through a rooftop speaker with a wave of feathers. The loud voice cut out mid-sentence, but more drones hovered. And then the real trap showed itself. A shimmer in the fog. A man's voice, soft and amused, threaded through hidden speakers all around the plaza. "You are impressive," the voice said. "Even here, you choose to save." Jin Woo's eyes lifted slightly. He didn't need to ask who it was. Aizawa's face hardened. "All for one," Hawks muttered. "Yup, that's him," the voice continued, calm as poison. "Look at them. They fear you. They want to chain you. They will never accept you." Jin Woo's voice stayed low. "I don't need acceptance," the voice chuckled. "Then take freedom. Join me. No rules, no forms, no cages." Jin Woo didn't answer for a beat. Not because he was tempted by evil, because the offer was sharp. It hit the sore spot. A world that tried to control him. A world that would blame him for what it didn't understand. The voice pressed gently, like a hand on a bruise. "You could rule the dark here. You could end all threats quickly, like a proper monarch." Jin Woo's gaze turned colder. "I'm not a ruler," he said. The voice grew softer. "Then what are you?" Jin Woo looked at the civilians running through shadow corridors. He watched a mother hold her child and cry. He watched heroes bleeding as they moved people out. He watched Aizawa drag a stranger to safety without stopping to breathe. His answer was simple. "A hunter," he said. And then he made his choice in action. Jin Woo released more of his army, not as a display, as a solution. Shadows surged outward across the plaza, climbing walls and forming a dome-like barrier that kept the fog contained to a smaller zone. Inside, The twisted fake shadows were cut down in clean, controlled strikes. Outside, civilians escaped without being chased. Hawks stared, breath caught. He's sealing the battlefield. Aizawa's eyes narrowed, like a quarantine. The voice of All for One turned a little colder. So you refuse? Jin Woo didn't reply. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the dark fog itself. He felt the residue, the copied hunger. The stolen piece of him mixed into this trap. He pulled it back, not violently, firmly. The fog shuddered as if something had yanked its heart. The twisted shadows collapsed into dust. The dome faded. The plaza lights flickered, then steadied. The high-end Nomu screamed as the dark stains under its skin tried to crawl out. Jin Woo looked at it once. Then he did something the cameras couldn't twist into villainy. He didn't execute it. He didn't gloat. He simply knocked it out cold with a single clean strike to the side of its head. It fell, breathing, alive. Aizawa exhaled slowly. He didn't kill it. Hawks's voice was quiet. That's going to matter. Police and pro-heroes rushed in as the fog cleared. Cameras caught Jin Woo standing in the middle of the plaza, shadows behind him, calm and still. This was the moment the commission wanted, a perfect shot to label him dangerous. But the plaza was full of living civilians, and it was hard to call the rescuer the villain when you could see the rescue with your own eyes. All for One's voice returned, softer now, like a man smiling in the dark. Interesting, he said. So you will not rule, you will not kneel, you will stand alone. Jin Woo's eyes narrowed slightly. You're hiding. A quiet laugh. Of course. Kings do not waste themselves. The speakers clicked off. The drone slowly pulled back. The trap ended. Not because All for One failed, because he learned what he needed. Jin Woo watched the last drone vanish into the night sky. Then he turned and walked away from the cameras. Hawks fell into step beside him. You just won the public a little. Jin Woo's voice stayed flat. Public opinion doesn't stop him. Aizawa walked on Jin Woo's other side, eyes tired. But it stops the commission from doing something stupid in the open. Jin Woo glanced at Aizawa. They already did. Aizawa didn't deny it. And they got lucky you don't enjoy killing humans. Jin Woo didn't answer. He didn't enjoy it. He just did what needed doing, when it was needed. All Might appeared at the edge of the cleared plaza, breathing hard. He had arrived late, but his eyes were burning with worry and pride. He looked at Jin Woo and bowed his head slightly. Thank you, All Might said. Jin Woo met his gaze. For the first time since arriving, Jin Woo spoke a name that wasn't a label. Sung Jin Woo, he said quietly. All Might blinked. Your full name? Jin Woo nodded once. You asked for trust. All Might's throat moved as he swallowed. I will keep it. Hawk's expression softened for a moment. Aizawa's eyes narrowed, but not in suspicion, in thought. Jin Woo looked past them at the city. I won't sign your forms, he said, but I won't leave this place unguarded either. Aizawa's voice stayed flat. So what? You become a ghost hero? Jin Woo's answer was simple. Call me when a gate opens. Hawks smiled faintly. That's not a system. Jin Woo looked at him. Then build one that works. Aizawa exhaled. We'll coordinate. Off book. Quiet. Hawks raised a hand. I hate that this is the best plan. Jin Woo stepped into the shadow at his feet. But this time, he didn't disappear like a stranger running away. He paused. He looked back at All Might, Aizawa, and Hawks. I don't want your world, he said. I just don't want it to break. Then he vanished. A week later, Musutafu had new rumors. People said the shadows could be seen on rooftops at night, standing still like guards. People said a dark night had stopped a robbery without hurting anyone. People said if you were lost in the fog, a cold hand would guide you out, and you would live. The commission did not announce anything. They could not control the story, so they tried to smother it. But some stories didn't need permission. At UA, Nezu added one more rule to the security board, written in neat letters. Anomaly response. Prioritize life. Do not provoke. Aizawa pretended he didn't agree with the wording. He agreed with the meaning. On a quiet rooftop, Jin Woo stood alone. The city below him was peaceful for the moment. Cars moved like slow lights. A train passed with a soft rumble. Somewhere, a TV played laughter through an open apartment window. Jin Woo watched it all like a man watching a fragile glass on the edge of a table. His shadows stood behind him in a loose line. Not a parade, not a threat, just presence. Igris stood closest, sword angled down, cape barely moving in the wind. Jin Woo's phone buzzed once. He didn't like the device. It was loud and needy. But Hawks had forced it into his hand and said, "If you're going to be a ghost, at least let us text the ghost." Jin Woo looked at the screen. A short message. Aizawa. Small anomaly ping near Ward 9. No civilians harmed yet. Can you check? Jin Woo stared for a second. Then he typed 2 words back. On my way. He put the phone away. A shadow soldier stepped forward and held something out with both hands. A paper, a form, stamped in big letters. Declined. Jin Woo stared at it. The soldier saluted. Jin Woo exhaled slowly, the closest thing to a sigh and a laugh at the same time. "No," he said quietly. "No more." The soldier lowered its hand, then tried to hold the paper with extra care like that would help. Jin Woo took it and folded it once, then twice, and tucked it into his pocket like it was a strange trophy. Down on the street, a stray cat darted into an alley. A shadow moved in the alley too, but it didn't chase the cat. It just stood there, guarding the corner. Jin Woo looked toward the horizon where the city lights thinned. He could feel it again. A faint wrong pulse. Like a door that wanted to open. He didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. This world had heroes. It had rules. It had paperwork. It also had a hidden king trying to break it from the inside. Jin Woo stepped into the shadow at his feet. Before he vanished, he looked back one last time at the bright city. He spoke a simple truth, not to anyone else, but to himself. A hunter goes where the threat is. Then he disappeared into the dark, not as a villain, not as a mascot, but as something this world could not easily name. And the night kept going, just different now.